Welcome to our few moments together on the Parsha. This Shabbos we have the privilege of reading Parshas Pinchas. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen did an act of boldness that was required in order to sanctify and to save Bnei Yisrael from the terrible worship of the Baal Peor, which resulted in the death of 24,000 Jews. That's 8 times more than were killed at the Egel Hazav, at the golden calf. The worship of Baal Peor led to an element of debauchery and sinfulness in a sensual fashion that brought about the death of these 24,000. Rashi, at the end of Parshas Balak, tells us that Baal Peor was a uniquely strange type of worship. We would certainly think of it as the most debasing element of humanity, as the worship was that one actually used the facility, so to speak, of the idol to take care of one's bodily needs, and by doing one's bodily needs on the idol, that was the worship. Who could think of such an ignoble way in which to worship a god, so to speak? That's with a small g. And yet, there were those that did that. As all the commentators explain, Rav Shamshon Hirsch amongst others, what really happened here was that there was a glorification of materialism, and that the physical was all that they paid attention to. It's almost as if someone paid no attention to the neshama, as if it didn't exist, that the only thing in the human being was the body and nothing to do with the soulful, higher element of existence. And when one worships the purely materialistic and physical, it can debase itself into the most foolish and certainly disgusting forms of worship. The Jewish people, on the other hand, when we celebrate our freedom from Mitzrayim, it's true that we also have a physical component. We eat at the Seder. We're required to eat karbanos, as the rest of the Seder of Parshas Pinchas tells us. Nevertheless, the purpose of all this is Kedusha, the synthesis between the physical and the spiritual. Here in the United States, yesterday, the United States of America celebrated its Independence Day on July 4th. One of the amazingly strange celebrations is a hot dog eating contest in Coney Island, in which the winner of the contest actually ate and downed 74 hot dogs in a 10-minute period. And the newspapers, USA Today, calls him an American hero. I suppose he really is an American hero. After all, it's not an easy thing to do. It's really an unusually difficult feat, which requires weeks of preparation. There's even a website on how to win an eating contest. Play by the rules, prepare well in advance. There's probably much to be learned from even this base foolishness of celebrating an Independence Day by eating 74 hot dogs, because the person had to prepare for a long time. He had to take it quite seriously. He had to get the right amount of sleep and drink the right amount of water. He had to go through a rigorous preparation schedule. I guess we can learn from that. If we want to gain in spirituality, that would require a tremendous amount of preparation too. The contrast, however, the purpose of a human being is not to descend into purely physical natures, but rather to raise oneself, not to use bodily functions, whether eating or the result of it, as a glorification of Hashem, but rather to utilize and recognize that the eating is what gives us the ability to act and do mitzvahs, to act and be kind, to follow the ethical values of the Torah, to bring about peace on earth, in order that our lives have meaning and value, not just in terms of our physical selves. I suppose if the only thing that was really mattered was the physical self, it's melancholia. There's really no purpose in life, because after all the body doesn't last. It eventually ends. And so the Torah, in contrast, on the Independence Day of the Jewish people, as we mentioned before on Pesach, we do eat, but minimally, a kezayis. And achila gasa, eating which is going to be of a nature that's gluttonous, is frowned upon, and you won't fulfill the mitzvah, because the purpose of our lives is not the purely physical. It's the spiritual. It's the synthesis between the two, the combination to make the world a better place, to bring about what Pinchas tried to bring about when he saw the purely physical descending into the lowest depths of animalistic behavior. Well, when we behave in a moral fashion, it brings about only great good for all the Jewish people. Parshas Pinchas, a lofty ideal of raising oneself and bringing about peace, shalom, and that's why Pinchas was given Brisi Shalom, my covenant of peace. Have a wonderful Shabbos.